Thank you, Chairwoman Rubio, for putting this together. It's such an important topic. So I'm Melodie Kruspodin. I'm from Peace Over Violence in Los Angeles, and we are a dual domestic violence and sexual violence program that serves the community. We were founded in 1971, so we're one of the oldest organizations to be doing this kind of work in the nation. And we've been doing prevention work specifically for almost 30 years, so I've also been doing this for a really long time, and something that I feel incredibly lucky to be able to say is that I run a prevention department of 8 people, including myself. So as the Director of Prevention and Policy at Peace Over Violence, we do a lot of work in the community that's prevention related, along with the services that we provide to survivors and victims. So we do emergency services, intervention services. We also run the Los Angeles Rape and Battering Hotline, as well as really the first of its kind, a sexual harassment hotline for Metro, our countywide public transportation system. So, I mean, I'm like very, very passionate about prevention and think it's really important. And prevention is important not only because we want to prevent young people from experiencing intimate partner violence and sexual violence in their adulthood, but also because these are things that are impacting them now. And we can look at prevention in a couple of different ways. We can look at it as, you know, what can we do to try and prevent an incident of violence occurring again to a student who perhaps has already dealt with this, but also how can we do primary prevention and try and stop it from happening in the first place. We really believe that dating violence, sexual violence, teen dating violence is a public health issue. It doesn't just affect the 2 people involved, it spills out into the community. There's emerging research that there's a strong connection to gun violence, and that some of the fatalities of particularly young women in dating relationships are linked to gun violence. And we know that that's something that's impacting our communities and our schools. And one thing we can do to help address that issue is talk about the prevention of sexual violence and dating violence. And, you know, dating violence and sexual violence, again, just have so many shared risk factors and protective factors with other issues that we care about in our communities, like gang violence, like suicide, like unwanted pregnancies, that again, if we could just kind of talk to young people about building healthy relationships, we could have this huge ripple effect into other issues. So what I wanted to spend a little bit of time doing was to tell you about the kind of array of different prevention programs we do at Peace Over Violence, just to show that there are a lot of different options for it and there are a lot of ways to go about it. I wanted to start with some of our school-based programs, just because that is a really great way to work with youth directly, is with the schools. So we work most closely with Los Angeles Unified School District. It's the 2nd largest school district in the nation, with over 70,000 teachers and staff, hundreds of thousands of students. And the unfortunate fact is that we can't reach them all because of that size. And so part of what we're really looking for in trying to increase funding for prevention is doing equitable work across the schools. You know, it shouldn't, your protection and your safety shouldn't be dictated because you happen to be at a school near Peace Over Violence or near one of our sister agencies. It's something that should be guaranteed to everybody. So we do a lot of different things with schools. We have a curriculum that we developed at Peace Over Violence that's used across the country called In Touch with Teens. It's a comprehensive violence prevention curriculum that addresses both sexual assault and dating violence, so that students not only learn the warning signs, but are also learning how to have healthy relationships, how to do conflict resolution, how to talk about their boundaries and consent, how to understand how they see violence and gender in the media, things like that. So it's really, really fun. We do it with youth in a lot of different ways, and we provide this type of education in middle schools, in high schools, and on college campuses. And actually, we've been working with some of the students who have been victims of Dr. Tyndall at USC. On some of these issues. So most often we're in class, like health classes, to try and fit this in. A lot of the schools are coming to us to help supplement the California Healthy Youth Act, which, you know, expanded sex education in schools, not only to make it mandatory, but to say that students have to learn about sexual assault. They have to learn about healthy relationship skills, and a lot of them, they don't have already the curriculum to do that, and so they've been calling us to help supplement that part of the sex ed education. But again, there are some challenges, like with Pasadena Unified School District, another district within our service area. Because of budget cuts that that district specifically has been seeing, they've cut health classes. And so it's really about, like, we have math teachers trying to teach sex ed and healthy relationships. Not to say that they don't care about it or can't do it, but you know, there's just so much competition for this. We also do psychoeducational groups with young people who perhaps are at high risk of being victimized or of victimizing others. And a lot of times those groups are gender specific, so we are working specifically with young men so that we can talk to them about what it means to build healthy relationships, addressing like toxic masculinity, that being a man doesn't have to mean being aggressive and violent and dominating towards women, and addressing like heteronormativity and some of the homophobia with young boys, and really trying to connect them to adult male mentors who can model to them what it means to be a healthy man and have healthy relationships. And we also do campaigns with the students across the schools, like Denim Day. So LA Unified and a lot of our school districts proclaim Denim Day for the districts and have their teachers and students wear these kinds of things. And we do empowerment self-defense for girls also, which I think is really cool. And we try and inject a lot of prevention strategies in there, that it's not just about like the physical techniques of learning how to defend yourself, but really to talk about it's okay to be assertive, it's okay to set boundaries, and how to be aware of your surroundings, things like that. And then we also focus a lot on leadership development with young people. So we also have young people doing programs at our office and throughout their schools to build their leadership skills, because we know that the more empowered that young people feel, the more of these like developmental and leadership skills that they have, the less vulnerable they are to, again, perpetrate violence or to be victimized by violence. So we have a school-based program called Stop Clubs that stands for Students Together Organizing Peace. And that's for students on their school campuses to really take these activities into their hands and decide what do they want to do for their specific community, because not all of Los Angeles is the same. Every school is dealing with a different issue. And we've had a lot of success. I actually started out in the Stop Club programs when I was a teenager, and it did a lot for my life. I also am providing for you today an article that was written about one of our students in the Los Angeles Times. He's the president of one of our local Stop Clubs, and he got into Harvard. And is the first in his family not only to be going to college, but to go to Harvard. And he talks a lot about how doing these types of leadership programs, talking about violence prevention, helped him to feel like he could be a leader, and like Harvard was something that was attainable to him. We also have a 5-week internship program and institute that we run every summer called our Youth Over Violence Leadership Institute. We accept 30 students into this program so that they can get really in depth, and to see 30 teenagers spending 5 weeks out of their summer all day just to talk about violence prevention is incredibly inspiring. And we like to say that, you know, young people are not just the leaders of tomorrow, they're the leaders of today. And so they work on internship projects, they do digital and social media, spoken word, community organizing, so that they can really engage their peers on these kinds of issues. And I've also provided to you another report that was done by the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence that talks about this 5-week program that we have and how impactful, how beneficial it is in young people's lives. Because what we're really trying to do is, again, kind of address these shared protective factors that help keep students safe, and we want to build things like connectedness to their community, to their schools, to each other, to a trusted adult, because these are all things that say help prevent violence from happening in the first place. And so the students really take on issues like gun violence and homelessness and things that they care about. They do a Day of the Dead, a Dia de los Muertos event, where they honor people who have passed because of domestic violence or sexual violence. And that's a way to bring a cultural awareness to their communities about this. So I can go on and on. I'm going to stop. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know.